G'day and welcome to another Scott Poynton podcast, and I'm coming to you today from a town in northern Uganda called Gulu. I have had the privilege of coming here to visit one person that I've known for a long time and another person who I've only just met, and that is Denis Opio and Harriet Anyim. And Denis and Harriet, husband and wife team, are the co-founders of Anyim Wa Community Initiative, and they do quite amazing work here to support young women in particular, with vocational training, often single mums. We'll let them tell that story. They also do climate coaching, but they do a lot of work with farmers as well. I had the privilege of being introduced to Denis about 3 years ago by a very good friend of mine. We were talking last night about how long relationships can be, and this friend who introduced me to Denis I worked with back in 1999, so a very long time ago, 26 years ago. We've stayed in touch, and about 3 years ago she met with Denis online as part of climate awareness and climate coaching work, and she said, "Oh, you should talk to Scott." And so Denis and I have been communicating quite some time, and Pond Foundation, which is one of my initiatives, supports the work in a small way for the moment of Anyim Wa. And I was coming here, very fortunate to be here in Uganda on another project, and I added a couple of days on so that I could come up here and meet with Denis and Harriet. And we're going to learn so much about the amazing work that they're doing. It gives me great pleasure to be able to have this discussion with them. So Harriet and Denis, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, listen, tell me about Anyim Wa. Tell me, tell me first about what it means, and then tell me something about the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Scott, for this opportunity. I'm Denis Opio, and Executive Director as well as the co-founder of Anyim Wa Community Initiative. Anyim Wa is a word that literally translates to our future in our native language here, Acholi, or we may call it Luo. Anyim Wa basically works to empower and transform the lives of women and youth out there who are living difficult conditions of life. And we've been doing this for quite some time now. It's about 3 years now. And the results we are finding in community is quite amazing. Yeah.
Thanks, Denis. And Harriet, tell us about the work that you do with Anyim Wa.
Anyim Wa is an organization that aims to empower women and young girls through leadership skills. We do climate coaching, we do mentoring and life skills. We look at these girls as vulnerable groups in the community. They have so much burden on their shoulders that they need to lift, but there is no one to support them, so we have come together to bring them together under this project and find a way to support them and make them be able to stand by themselves and be able to support themselves and the children that they have with them.
Yeah, thanks, Harriet. So you told me this morning that in Uganda, 83% of young people are unemployed. It's a staggering statistic, and I'd heard this before as I was going around, that people just kept saying there's no jobs for the young people. So when you say the women are vulnerable, they're disadvantaged, just paint me a picture of the life of a typical, average one of these young women that you support here up in the north.
There is one thing here that has been a great challenge, that is poverty here in this part of the region especially. And this poverty affects these girls in many ways. You find that sometimes it's hard to find basic needs of life at home, and life becomes so hard. Girls go roaming on the streets, they drop out of schools, they fall into boy-child relationships and end up getting pregnant, and then they drop out of school, some of them because of those reasons, and then they end up giving birth to children. They're the children themselves, and then they have babies. Life becomes very hard. Sometimes they're forced out of their parents' homes. They have to go and start a life of their own, probably with their husband now, or just with their babies. And so,
because you told me sometimes the husbands, or in inverted commas husbands, the father, leaves, right?
Yeah, in most cases they leave because they're scared of the responsibilities. They're even young. They're not mature to take such responsibilities. So in most cases they leave, and these girls are left alone with their babies. They are not able to provide for themselves and for their babies. They can't sustain a life. So their lives become very miserable. They become very frustrated and desperate. So these are the girls that we pick and bring together and try to restore faith in their lives and try to find a way of bettering their lives through these programs that we bring in Anyim Wa.
Yeah, yesterday we had the privilege of seeing one of your groups, out in a town called Palanga, where the young women are being trained as hairdressers. And before we were able to see them in action in the hairdressing salon, it was very moving where we invited them to speak, and they were very shy, but some of them eventually stood up to speak. And some of the stories they told about just how difficult it has been for them because maybe their parents didn't have money to put them through school, or yes, they became pregnant and had to leave school, and they just have no source of income, and they're often sort of kicked out of the house by the parents. It all seemed rather desperate. And in contrast to that, when we got into the hairdressing salon, they came alive. You can see they've been trained. The wonderful trainer there, Denis, you can tell us about her. Lovely lady where she's training these young women on how to be hairdressers. They just threw themselves into it and came alive. And it was really interesting for me because it gave me, I think I've always known this, but just how important it is to have a purpose in your life and how terrible it can be when you don't. And yesterday one of the parents stood up and spoke to us, one of the mothers stood up and spoke to us and said how they've seen such a change in the girls because they were aimless before and depressed and sad and wandering the streets. And now this has been turned around. So Denis, just tell us about some of the details now about the things that you do. I know hairdressing is one. Tell us about that. Tell us about the trainers. Who engages in these programs that you and Harriet bring to these young women? And what else does Anyim Wa do in terms of this vocational training?
I would start by saying when a woman struggles, the family also goes hungry. Why do I say that? In our tradition here, more especially in northern Uganda, with the impact of the war, women, the culture, there was change of narrative. So women are doing more work than men, that even taking serious responsibilities in the home. So most of it lies on the hands of the women. The fathers, because during the war, the camp, 20 years in the camp, they were barely just not doing anything. All life just depended on the handouts, the foods being supplied by different agencies during the war. So that created a very big lifestyle, or a new lifestyle, that people are finding it hard now to transition to another setting where there is now peace in the country. So with this, it has coupled in a lot of factors that make women stand more vulnerable, more especially when they are not empowered. Anyim Wa comes in to bridge that gap, to bring more hope to the women and to strengthen them to stand. And based on the stories that you heard yesterday, we do have programs that are tailored to their interest. Normally what we do is when we are getting these women, we collaborate with the local leadership on the ground. They identify the girls that were in dying need. So after identifying, we reach out to them and we do individual assessments where we talk, we have a one-on-one on them, and they give us their experiences, their story, and their interest and passion. So the mode of empowerment comes in a way that it is matched to their passion. And majority of them, and then we categorize them. So the biggest number of them always go for vocational skills training, that is hairdressing and tailoring as one of them. A few go for bakery just because of maybe they're not so much exposed to that, but the majority go for those two. And after when we have already identified the passion and the need, we organize and see how best we can now support them. So that's when we recruit facilitators or trainers who have experience in hairdressing and tailoring. So they are the ones who have a daily interaction with them during the program. So they train them on those skills, but as well as we don't only just give them those skills, the hands-on, we also give them the soft skills that they need, both soft and hard skills, basically, I may call it.
Yeah, what does that mean, mate? Tell us, expand on that for us.
So soft skills and hard skills, I may call them like the 21st century skills. Yeah, so I'll give just an example. When we talk about soft skills, these are skills that you may have that you can't touch and you don't have physical ability to do them. They're basically within you. Talk about critical thinking, talk about things to do with teamwork, talk about problem solving, decision making. So all those are soft skills. And when it comes to hard skills, these are skills that now look at things that are tangible a bit, like planning, budgeting, because you get involved in doing that. So those are some of the skills that we give them. And the reason why we come up with that, it helps them to gain that confidence in what they're doing. So that's when we also integrate in business mentorship, basically. So with the business mentorship is we give them the skills they need for a successful entrepreneur would have. Things to do with how do you start a business, how do you do market research, how do you brand your products, how do you come up with a very good product, how do you pitch your business to get support, how do you mobilize resources for your support. So those are some of the things that we add up on that, so that when they leave, they're able to stand on their own, manage their own business. For example, if a girl has graduated with hairdressing, she can be able to open up a salon and manage it by herself because she's already empowered with those skills. Unlike other vocation services that are there, some of them only just give them the knowledge of learning how to maybe sew or maybe how to plait an hair, and then the business side of it is not given to them. And that's where some of the gap that has been, and we've come in to bridge that gap. Alongside that, we also engage them into another component of livelihood, where we have conversations around agriculture. You know, agriculture is one of the key, is the background of, actually, the backbone of Uganda's economy. There's a lot of agriculture being done here, and women are key in that. So how do we bring in agriculture conversation? We start by talking about having kitchen gardens. So we empower them on the basis and the reasons why they should have kitchen garden. One, it's to support the family, have food, and also kitchen garden always has a component of nutritious food and balanced diet that directly is very important to the children. And some of the young mothers, sometimes you find when they have malnourished children because they don't have the required necessity really to feed their children. So when we embed into that, we help them realize the importance of kitchen garden, and they can do it. So sometimes we go ahead and reach out to the community, maybe even the participants themselves. They give us a demonstration, a plot, and then we do our learning on there. And the rest replicate what we've taught them. And then they do it within their households where they come from. So those are some of the things we've been doing. Not forgetting issue to do with climate. There's climate change is a big deal now, and really it affects us all.
How is it affecting you guys here in the north of Uganda, mate? What's happening with climate change here?
Yeah, the patterns of our seasons are changing. We used to have 2 seasons where we plant in a year, but because of climate change, sometimes you find, in some years you find that we only have 1 season. And if we have 2 seasons, there's a season where it will overrain and there will be a lot of flooding. So people who have planted their crops will not be able to yield. And it's other occasions you find the rain doesn't come. There's too much sunshine, it's too hot, drought. So it also affects farmers and still goes down to women because they are key participants in agriculture. They are the ones who do cultivations, the weedings, and everything in the community. So we come in with climate coaching to change their mindset about how to adapt to the current changes, and also how do they come up with mitigation measures dependent on their capability to really do something about climate change. And we've seen results. Some of them get involved into waste management practices, others get involved into tree planting, others advocate for protection of natural forests that do exist and the swamps maybe that are surrounding them. So in that way, we are trying to solve a problem that would come maybe for future generations as well. Yeah.
It's absolutely multifaceted, and it seems to be really touching on the important needs for these young women. I think it's fantastic that you're bringing in the nutrition element and the farming element, but mostly these vocational skills, but not just the skills. As you say, you're teaching them how to run a business and things like this, which of course most of these girls, I think probably all of these girls, have not completed school, and so they haven't had that broader education. And what you're doing is pretty amazing, I think. And we saw today you ran a session this morning that I was privileged to be able to watch, where you worked the young women through this concept of empowerment, and which I found very powerful, because you asked them to list out all of the challenges that they were facing, and there was a long list: domestic violence, poverty was huge for all of them. They're living in the slum area of the town, and not being able to get their kids to school. I think they mentioned nutrition. All of these things came out. There must be a strong sense of despair, I would imagine, and loss of hope in many of these young women. And what we saw today was they were absolutely able to talk about those problems and be confident in their discussions. And I think that you guys have done an amazing job in, I often say to people, if you've got a problem, it's probably a good idea to talk about it. And I think, it's easy to spiral into this, fall into this death spiral of despair. And, I did wonder, about depression here in the north, and even is there a problem with suicide? I hadn't meant to ask you that, but, Harriet, maybe you can talk to that. What are you seeing in the women before they come, and then in the transformation after they've been through, during your program? I don't think they have to wait to the end. I mean, today we saw a lot of happy faces, a lot of strong presentations. Just tell us a little bit about what are the women like, the young women like, before they join the program?
From my observation, when we just started recruiting these women and girls for this program, they were so depressed. They had no hope for life. They had no faith. They were seen as people who have failed in life, looked at by their other peers who have made it, who have gotten the opportunity to go ahead with their education and are living a better life. They were being criticized and discriminated. But with our program, when we brought them together and we started mentoring them and giving them all these skills that they now are undergoing trainings for, I see a lot of changes. Like they are happier, and they're united. They want to support each other. They're very ambitious. They have plans for the future, and they see hope, and they really call upon us to continue supporting them so that they can finish this program and be able to stand on their own and support their children and change the face of the world that have been living for so long in poverty and desperation and suffering. I see that they have great hope now with this program, and it's what they really want so much now for them, for their children, and for those others who are still in the community that you have not been able to recruit. I've seen great changes.
Mm. And how many of these young women have been through your program over the last 3 years?
In the last 3 years, I think we've been able to train at least now 385, although they are scattered across various districts. We have several groups here in Gulu, the others in Omoro, the others in Nwoya. So they're scattered across. averagely, I would say 385.
That's a large number of young women. And tell me about we always like to think about the success stories, of course. Tell me some of them. Just share some of the stories that you've seen where some of the. I'm sure that not all of those 385 have gone on to set up businesses and all of these things. But tell us some of the stories where you've seen the greatest transformations.
Of course, not all the 385 come out successful and having their businesses doing well. Some probably just go back into other things even and farming. People are different in their ways. But from the few I have seen and witnessed, we have a girl that's called Akelo Nancy. She's been doing hairdressing. That was about last year. She did and completed a training. And when we didn't have enough resources to give them startup kits, but from the savings, because when you put them into groups, you encourage them to be saving in a way or two from the different small businesses to form a circle where they put in small money so that when they finish the program, they are able to start up something in any kind of small way. So Akelo Nancy has been able to start up a very small salon. Actually, she didn't start up like a place of her own. People would come to her place to ask them to do their hair, and then they would give her some little bit of money, and then with a little bit of savings, here and there for some time, she was able to get out and start up a bit of a container, some in her village, and that's where most of the girls now go and do their hair from, and the women there at an affordable rate. And she's improving. I believe next year she will upgrade to another level.
Oh, very good. That's a great story. One of the things that the women mentioned this morning was this problem of domestic violence. And there's this trap here that if they are successful in their business and they do start to make money, that the men demand the money and often go out and drink it. And if the women refuse to give it, then they get beaten. This was one of the, it was mentioned many times this morning by the young women. What do you do in those situations? I'm sure you've probably seen young women turning up that maybe have show the effects of having had domestic violence. Put on them, I guess. I don't know what the right term is, a victim of domestic violence. And what do you do in those situations? Because here you are trying to empower these young women, and yet the men in their lives are behaving in this bad way. What do you do in those situations?
Well, in some cases, we have been having trainers who do guidance and counseling for these women. Like one of our trainers who was here the other day, Madam Franca, she does guidance and counseling for these women who are depressed as a result of the domestic violence that they go through in the hands of the fathers of their children that they're living together with. So then when they counsel them, they take heart, they persevere, and then in severe cases where these men have become too violent and they're probably hurting them, we try to take another step to involve the authorities like the local leaders, the LC1s, to intervene and have mediation sessions with them and their partners and try and resolve the issues with their families. And when the case is extreme, we even involve the police who come and take legal actions to help save the women and the children to prevent them from getting hurt.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, please, Denis.
Yeah, in regards to GBV,
GBV?
Yeah, domestic violence, gender-based violence, basically. So in Gulu City here, we have a gender domestic violence platform that is doing an amazing work. It is a collaboration between different organizations, institutions, and different stakeholders within the city. So they have established shelters, and then when we have cases, because we have a WhatsApp group, so every case that is being reported, we do referrals. So sometimes for the girls now who undergo such kind of cases, we we collaborate with different partners who are directly handling domestic violence.
This is their expertise.
Yes, so they are the ones who come and now intervene in such situations. That's why we have Franca as part of the girls, the lady who comes and talks to them. She belongs to a company called Strong Minds. Yeah, so we have that collaboration network that exists within the country, within the city, that helps us to coordinate cases of domestic violence. Yeah, but I know in the morning hours today, when one of the girls was raising fear that when they are overempowered, like when they have resources, the men will turn violent and all that. And this is not the first case. It has been even happening. We have in villages where a woman cultivates her own crops and actually gets a good harvest, but the decision holding is taken by the husband, who has not even participated in that. And so civil society organizations and other interventions and projects have come in to really to advocate for rights of women that needs to be protected. And so in some of our sessions as well, we do awareness creation. That more especially when we are doing the leadership part of it, we do more of awareness and sensitization. So in that area, sometimes we invite both those who have partners to come, so that we have a discussion over cases related to that. We are aware such instances happen, and so the more we get involved, we also help to solve them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complex, and it's so great to hear that there's a platform here to help deal with these issues. What about drugs? Is drugs a problem in the country, in this region perhaps?
Not so much of drugs, but alcohol. The men here are very alcoholic. There was a year, I'm not sure when exactly, when the statistic here was very high of alcohol consumption in Gulu particularly. So
not Denis though.
Oh, I wouldn't say so. So alcoholism among men is very common here, probably one of the factors contributing to domestic violence in this part.
And I guess a lack of work. And we talked about 83% youth unemployment in the country, and of course that's not all women. And I think part of this problem for maybe the depression and the alcohol abuse could be that these young men are also out of work, right? They don't have work, and maybe they have their own depression around that. So I know that you're doing these programs for young women. You've been asked, what about programs for young men? And just wondering about your thoughts on that.
I know the boys are part of the 83% of the youth out there who are unemployed. And there is a way how interventions can be driven in. Since for us, our main focus is looking at maybe women, but we also have the component of youth. So it has been also a concern actually being raised by some of the parents who come and say, now you're helping the girls, but you're leaving the boys. Or what programs could you have for them? So just because we don't have enough resources to empower men, the boys always have interests that are a little bit different, so kind of so different from what women want. Most of them ask for vocational trainings on, say, like bricklaying and construction. Others want to do mechanic. Others want to go into things to do with repairs or other things. So in our capacity currently, we are unable really to do that. But what I've done in most cases is to refer them to organizations that are already doing that, and that's where some of them find help. The unfortunate part of it is also some of those organizations don't operate in the areas where we are operating. So that's where we find the gap. But I think it is a good thing that we'll have to add on to our program to also consider the boys as well, because we may be thinking that we are solving a problem, but again we are creating more problem in society. So it's a good thing that we can take up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing these programs with these women, 385 women over the last 3 years. I think there's probably thousands out there that need your support, and you've only got so many resources to do your work. So what is the dream? What is your hope for Anyim Wa and the impact that you can have here? You know, at the moment you're going out to these places. Today we went into the slum area of Gulu where we did a wonderful training. Well, you did a wonderful training under the tree there. But as you mentioned, you know, when it rains, it's all very difficult. And, you know, even the young women yesterday and today were saying it would be so great to have a place where we could go. What's your vision for Anyim Wa? You've only just been going a couple of years. Where do you want to take it? What's your dream for Anyim Wa?
The problems of the world are always there, and we can never stop solving them. What we envision is basically to have an institution that can reach out to a bigger number of people out there who are facing challenges, just like we are doing. We are looking at establishing ourselves not only here within Gulu, but also have hubs, for example, vocational training hubs that could be established in strategic places where those services can easily reach and are accessible by the different categories of beneficiaries in those communities. So if we have that network, say maybe in 3 or 4 places, that would really have a bigger impact, and more people will always be helped. And those training hubs would actually have, if it is skills training, they would have not more than 2 at least vocational skills that could be provided there. So it has to be in a way that it's also flexible to accommodate some other skills that would be needed. So you would have maybe a tailoring, those who are doing tailoring, and then there are those who are doing maybe hairdressing, and then there are those who are doing maybe construction and bricklaying, or maybe those who are doing mechanic. So when you have that, it helps other categories also to be tapped in. And what we want to promote a sustainable solution that lasts for some time. So we are looking at those hubs. When we're doing the trainings or the empowerments, the learners will have to go into stages. So there's a stage where you'll have learned, and now you're practicing. You have a stage where you're given an opportunity to practice what you've learned. So in that stage, that's when we can introduce in the aspect of social enterprises for the institution. So that's where they will maybe make products that are easily exchanged into the market, and also help raise some resources or revenue that can help to sustain such hubs in those locations. So, and that's why we want to start with the bakery as one of the mode, and we want to see how we can use the bakery to sustain the programs of Anyim Wa and also help broaden impacts in other areas. Yeah.
Very good. What's your dream, Harriet? What do you look at 3 and 5 years' time from now? Where do you hope Anyim Wa will be?
My dream and my vision for Anyim Wa 5 years from now is to be a model organization here in Gulu that have impacted thousands of lives of women and youth and girls who had been living in very terrible conditions of life, who are shining out there, and that other people who are still down there, who have not got the opportunity, really admire and wish to be like them. An organization that outstands, that everyone, when they look at this organization and what we are doing, they really admire the work that we're doing and the spirit, and gives others the inspiration to continue the same fight and join us probably and open up more other organizations who do the same thing like we do.
Well, that's pretty exciting. I'm up for that. You know, we should mention that, you know, I know you're also working with farmers groups, but that may be something for a discussion another day. We had a wonderful day yesterday out in one of the farm villages making biochar. My listeners will know that I'm very passionate about biochar, and that was a great experience too, because, you know, introducing the farmers to biochar will really help them. You know, really, they were great. They really engaged, and we made some biochar, and I'm sure they're going to carry that work on. So You're doing so many different things, and I know it's tough. I know you're really strapped for resources, and we're really proud at Pond Foundation to be able to support you. But as I said, not in a big enough way yet. But with the sort of vision and dreams that you have, I think that and the achievements that you've had so far, and just that spirit of the young women that we saw today, so many of them with young babies, so many challenges they're facing, but they were leaning in and they were leaning forward, and I got that strong sense of yes, real empowerment, and they weren't just sort of sitting back feeling sorry for themselves given their situation. I'm sure that's very uplifting for you both to see that unfolding. But part of what I always like to do when I'm talking to guests on the podcast is also understand a little bit about their journey to this place. Here you are, Harriet and Denis, wife and husband working on a project together, and it's pretty wonderful to be able to do that. But how did that happen? How did you come here to be in Gulu and working on this amazing project together? Harriet, maybe you should start.
Actually, I got inspired by Denis, who is my husband, to participate in this project and become a part of. But also, my story that has a deep thing that goes down in me that inspires me even more is I was raised by a single mother. I lost my dad back in 2015 when he died. I was still young and I hadn't gone further with my education. I have other brothers of mine, 3 others. So we are 4 in total as my mother's children. So I watched her toil and suffer because by that time when my dad passed on, she didn't have any means of survival. Like, she hadn't established herself financially. She wasn't doing any business that could help sustain us as her family. So we suffered really. We had to drop out of school. It was hard to get medical treatment. It was hard to get things to eat because she was really taken several steps back by my father's death just because she was not independent as a woman. So I watched her toil and struggle raising all the 4 children by herself and the state that she was left. And that really pained so much and hurt so much. So when my husband Denis introduced this program to me, like, he talked to me about it. That
hold on. There's something you've just missed, a very important step there, Harriet.
Okay.
We always like to hear the story about how you met. You can't just go, suddenly he was my husband.
Okay.
You've told us this amazing story about how you were young and you left school, and then this terrible challenge that your mum was facing. How did you meet Denis?
Okay. So then I had to drop out of school when my mother could not continue paying me to school, sending me to school. When I dropped out, I looked for a job, a casual work, and then I ended up at a supermarket called Don Supermarket here, very famous in Gulu. I worked there for about a year, and during my time there, I used to serve as a cashier and a salesperson at the same time. So Denis used to go to the supermarket to buy some stuff. I think he was volunteering with some organization. Yeah. He used to go there and buy some biscuits, refreshment for the girls. He has always liked these things of working with women and the girls, supporting them and empowering them. So he was volunteering with, was it Rising Earth?
Yeah, Chrysalis.
Chrysalis, that was the organization. So he used to come and buy a lot of biscuits, juice, and water for the girls and the children. So that's where I met him.
Did he start coming more often after he met you, and longer time at the cashier having a chat?
Yeah, he did. Actually, that became his usual place. That every day, whenever they had a session, the other side, he'd come and buy from there every time.
Right across the whole side of town, just to see you.
Yeah, I'd say so. So then he used to buy a lot from us, and then I got to. That's how I got to know. I don't know if you want me to.
Oh, no, you don't have to give too many details. But it's just lovely to hear how you met and, how you fell in love, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's what happened. And so then we started building on our relationship slowly. And then in 2018, that's when we got together. Me and Dennis, we started living together. And then we had a baby that year. And then after a year or two, we had another. That's our firstborn is called Antonio Rotero Antonio Blaze, and our second is Mitch Dylan and Selmo. Yeah, we have two amazing boys. That's my story with Dennis. So he has always been hardworking, and he has a lot of ideas running through his head all the time. So when he shared this idea of Anyim Wa with me, I saw a lot of sense in it, and based on what I had already gone through with my family, I really saw that worthwhile, and I saw a lot of reasons to support him and stand with him and see this come true. It's a dream that we had, and so I wanted to be a part of this dream, to see it come through one day. And so this is how I am here and participating.
Fantastic. I love it. And look, there's another part of your story which I think we should share with the listeners, is you've gone back to school, and not just any school. You've gone to study law. Tell us about that.
I went back to the law school. That was I didn't first go to the law school direct. I first went to another institution that's called Samizi. Samizi Training Institute for Development. It's a traditional government school. It's an institution that was started a long time ago. It was under the government, and it gives affordable rates to students who are probably not very privileged to attain some level of education. So I went there and did a certificate course in public administration and management. And then when I finished that, that's when I went for a law diploma at LDC in Kampala. That was last year. Yeah, so I went and studied for a year. The course lasted a year and finished. So then I came back last June. That's when I returned from school. So all this time, Dennis was busy here with Anyim Wa. While I was at school, I wasn't so very much actively involved with the groups and the girls and the trainings because I had to be at school. And then now I came here back from school in June. Then I continued from where we left.
Fantastic. Yeah. What a lovely story. And congratulations on your graduation. And I believe there's more study ahead, right?
Yeah, true. I still want to upgrade and go for my bachelor's. I'm still continuing with law. I want to someday become a judge.
Well, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Good on you. Congratulations. You're a great example yourself about how education and support can help young women in your case to find a way when they've had a bit of a challenge put upon their life. So good on you, Harriet.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. Dennis, you fell in love with Harriet and you crossed Gulu 10 times a day, making up stories that you needed to go to the supermarket. Tell me about that.
Well, thank you, Scott. I must say meeting Harriet was, I would say it's a blessing. And that's what I kept on praying for. I subscribe to a Catholic faith, and that's why the names of my children, you can hear, they have those Italian strong Catholicism culture in them. Yeah. Meeting Harriet was an experience that I really enjoyed. The first time I met her was, of course, she was working just as she said at dawn, and I'd gone to procure some refreshments for the kids that we were supporting. By then I used to work actually basically with kids. And I was supporting a company called Chrysalis. It is a UK-based company. And they have programs here in Uganda. The project was called Butterfly Project, and it's run by Ben Parkinston. Currently now they've grown into a secondary school, so they have a secondary school within Gulu here, and Ben sits there to support. And one of my auntie who is also one of the directors of Chrysalis here in Uganda, she's the one actually who asked me to go give support when I was available without a job by then. So that's how I started. And in the process, I met Harriet and we started knowing each other for some time. Then I got my first job, like good paying job. I moved away out of Gulu. And by then, that's when she made a decision to follow me up where I was, and we started a family from there. So we stayed until we moved back to Gulu. When I came back to Gulu, but the time when I came back, that's when I also lost that job. It's because of the pandemic, COVID-19. Most of the staff in that company were actually laid off, and I was also inclusive in the number. So we came to Gulu and we started new life. It was not quite easy, but I had still that passion of always doing something for the community and supporting people. So I used to do a bit of voluntary work and also get involved in smaller contracts. Then, as well as also trying to apply for new positions. But it was really quite a difficult moment. Then one night I just said, why do I have to really look for a job? Do I really have to sit down and really keep on writing applications to every organization, and you don't maybe even receive feedback or even a call that we've received your application? So I said, I sat down and I was like, why can't I create something for myself? So I started with a small business, but then that instinct of doing something voluntary for people, then I said, no, I think the work of going around training and empowering youth within the community, by then I used to train them on liquid soap, basically because it was one of the selling things during COVID time, the detergent that was needed for hand washing at every household level. So I used to train people how to make liquid soap, and they would actually sell and make money out of it. So I said, no, let me continue with this and maybe see what goes around. And that's how it started continuing. But also another deep story of now deciding which category of people I would really have for our program that currently Anyim Wa. I reflected back in life when I was growing up. I was born during the war. My mom was kidnapped during the war. I was taken care of by my auntie during the time when my mom was kidnapped. So until when she came back. So when she returned, my dad had already relocated from Gulu. He joined another place called Chankwanzi. Currently, Chankwanzi by then it was Chiboga, and he was working for some army man there in his farm. And that's how we also had to move to that side. But life there wasn't really easy because my mom really toiled enough to ensure that she supported my dad in all situations. And she was actually behind almost everything, as my dad also was trying to struggle to do other things. So she's not educated. My dad also was educated, but not up to the higher level. I also stopped because of resources. So I felt it wise that I looked through how our mom was taking care of us and struggling. Then that's when I said no. I think the biggest contribution I would make is to mothers. Yeah. And also looking at our story, that's why I was encouraged to really approach and tell her my story, that I want to start up something, but I need someone I would really tell this journey together. So when I shared with her, she accepted to be a co-founder, and that's when I went ahead and actually registered it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's an amazing story, and I'm very glad that Lydia, my friend, introduced us to you 3 or so years ago, Denis, and to come here to Gulu and meet you finally in person and to meet Harriet as well. It's only been a couple of days, but it's hugely inspiring, and to see the program we did yesterday with the farmers and the young women training to be hairdressers, today in the slum area where the young girls were expressing their hopes for the future and making their own plan about delivering it. And this is what I think is so wonderful and inspiring about what you're both doing, is that you're not just giving handouts, you're helping the women find their path forward, and you're giving them some help along that way. You're giving them some knowledge, some skills, some support, and a lot of moral support, and I see them responding, and it's very, very inspiring. And the real purpose in recording your story is hopefully to inspire other people, and other people can do the sorts of things that you're doing where they are, but also, of course, to see if we can inspire some people to support your work and the work of Anyim Wa, and that vision that you both have of impacting the lives of so many young people going forward, and through these hubs that you mentioned, Denis, and through all the training and support that you mentioned, Harriet. So really, just to finish up and say, what a wonderful visit I've had here to meet with you both finally, and to be able to experience firsthand the amazing power of the work that you're doing. How amazing it is to give young people hope, or to give any person hope. And when you see and understand just how hopeless their situation can be, and to see that light in their eyes, that's a gift in itself. So I really want to thank you both for the work that you're doing and the inspiration that you bring to these young women, and I'm sure the lives of their children and their broader family. So look, once again, thanks so much from me, and I think from the broader world who will be listening to this podcast and say, wow, if only we had more people like Harriet and Denis. So thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for coming, and thank you for your support.
All right, thank you.